Hello everyone, my name is Infinity, and today I'm bringing you guys another Elder Scrolls 6 theory video because I know you guys love them and I love making them, and it has been a while since I've done a theory, and I'm sure you guys have been waiting for one, so let's get into it today, shall we? So today's theory comes from a wonderful individual by the name of Joseph Balga, and he is a very intelligent individual for bringing me a concept that I had not thought of before, which I am very impressed. Good job, Joseph. I'm going to put the comment up on screen now because he had commented on my The Elder Scrolls 6 Blades theme theory and said this: "My main theory for The Elder Scrolls 6, however, is that it will be about the Akiviri invasion." Now, if you guys know, I already covered the concept of the Akiviri invasion, but I did not go into it in the way that Joseph is describing it here today. I will get into what he is talking about right now, so let's continue reading. It's been said before that in the Elder Scrolls series that the Akiviri have been wanting to conquer Tamriel for, I believe, centuries. They've actually been waiting for the Empire to be weakened by something like a civil war. I think the Thalmor are actually working with the Akiviri to stir up trouble and weaken the Empire, and the Elder Scrolls 6 will take place maybe a couple years after Skyrim. Now, he's making a good point, everybody. I hadn't thought of the Akiviri working with the Thalmor before, because if you guys don't know, the Thalmor are trying to do some crazy shit. So, let's discuss a little bit about the Thalmor, shall we? So what is the objective of the Thalmor? The Thalmor are some pretty bad people. They do not like man, they do not like most of the race of Tamriel, they just do not like anybody who is not an elf, and sometimes they don't even like some other elves. They think all other people are inferior compared to the Altmer, and I think personally it's a very racist standpoint, but most of the races of Tamriel are racist anyway, so it doesn't matter. The Altmer, and more specifically the Thalmor, have a plan to undo all of reality. What do I mean by this? Well, it goes back to the very founding and creation of Tamriel. Okay, so we're going to get into some really crazy lore stuff. Not all of this has been confirmed. I might be getting some things wrong, but for all intents and purposes, this is my interpretation of what the Thalmor are trying to do and what exactly their whole major plan is. So the Thalmor back at the beginning of time, or should I say the Altmer, were high elves. They came from beings known as the Aedra, and the Aedra, when they came down and formed Mundus, were drained of their powers and then put into mortal forms. Now, most of the divinity had drained from all of the elves, and they became just normal elves. They were mortals. They lived a long time, but they still died after a very long time. Compared to man, they lived extremely long. They lived up to 1,000 years, roughly, and they could actually perfect most of their arts and live out most of their lives in perfection, in most of their eyes, at least. The whole idea behind the Altmer was that they were the superior race, and while other beings changed and became other races altogether, and man started to take over Tamriel, they still stayed the same. They still kept their culture and their arts and their beliefs, and they never diverted. The Altmer are actually the closest to the original High Elves, or the original elves that descended from the Aedra. Their whole purpose in life is to become divines again. They all wish to return back to divinity, and actually this goes into the Towers of Tamriel. If you guys are not aware of the concept of the Towers of the World within the Elder Scrolls universe, allow me to summarize it for you. There are towers within the world of Mundus that hold up the world and keep it structured properly. They hold up the realm of man, which is Mundus, and they hold up the realm of Oblivion and keep them separate. It keeps everything orderly and basically serves as a support structure for the world. Think of it this way. The towers of the world are like a support beam inside of a house. Knock that out, and what happens to the house? It becomes less stable. In this regard, you could think of Tamriel as the house, and these towers as the support beams. The Thalmor used to use these towers as a way to return back to divinity, but they lost those teachings a long time ago. Now the Thalmor see them as more as prison bars, keeping them, tying them to Mundus instead of allowing them to return to divinity like they, in their mind, rightfully should be. Now, the Altmer wish to destroy these towers, so that all of creation is undone, so that all of Mundus returns back to the primordial state at which it once was, and all of creation and existence no longer matters. This essentially undoes all of creation and allows everything to return back to the way it originally was. The Altmer are so stuck up in their own regard, based off their own culture and everything, that they need to return back to this state, and the idea of not being a god is something that infuriates them. So, the Thalmor, specifically the Aldmeri Dominion, wish to undo all of creation so that they can return back to the state that they feel they rightfully should be. Now that we got that history lesson out of the way, you're probably wondering to yourself right now, Infinity, what the heck does that have to do with anything when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6? Well, I'm going to explain that, so please, stay with me. So, the Elder Scrolls 6 follows the events of the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and in Skyrim the Thalmor were a pretty big deal. If you didn't know, the Skyrim Thalmor are probably one of the most heinous versions of the Aldmeri Dominion to date. Now, before in the series, they were never depicted so badly. They were just snooty, sure, they were a little bit hoity-toity, but they never were this bad. They feel like they own everything now. They feel like they're top dogs, and if you were to say anything, they'll laugh in your face and piss you off even more than you probably should be pissed off at them for. Regardless, the Thalmor are not nice individuals, and like I said, in Skyrim, they have a lot of connections and a lot of things that are just not pleasant. No one likes them for a very good reason, at least not seriously. I'm pretty sure if the Thalmor were a real thing in real life, we'd all be pretty upset with them if we were in a high elf, because let's be honest, they think of everybody else as children, and they all feel like everybody else should be bowing to them and giving them everything that they've ever wanted. I don't like the Thalmor if you can't tell, but this has nothing to do with what I'm trying to tell you right now. What I'm trying to say is that the Thalmor have a plan. And this plan regarding the humans involves weakening the race of man to a point where they literally cannot do anything about what the Thalmor are actually trying to do, which is return back to divinity. Previously in the series, we have heard that they have actually tried to fight back against man and have lost. But as of the events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, they actually have won their first major conflict against them. The race of Myr is now suddenly getting a huge, I suppose you could say, foothold on the throat of mankind, and is taking everything that mankind has and is basically trying to ruin it. See, they despise man. They despise man so much that they want to wipe them all from existence. But simply killing every race of man in the entirety of Tamriel would not be enough. They need to wipe the entire notion of man from existence. They need to wipe everything from them. Because if they leave a single shred behind, there's still a chance they can come back and intervene with their perfect plan to become divine again. This whole idea stems from the concept that man does not want creation to be undone. Would you? I know I wouldn't. So, literally, the best case scenario for the Altmer is to make sure that the mankind cannot fight back. The best case scenario is to make sure nobody can fight back. Not the Argonians, not the Khajiit, not any of their other races of Myr that are strayed from the path that they were originally on, and to make sure that all of mankind is underneath the foot-heel of the Thalmor. Now see, they don't exactly need all of the rest of the races of Tamriel to be completely under the foot-heel of the Thalmor. They only want this because they want to make sure they can keep everybody in check so that no one can intervene with their plan. They don't need to have control over them. They just need them to be preoccupied, so busy that they can't be bothered with the Thalmor. They can't be bothered to figure out what they're doing. It's like your house is burning down, but your brother, your little brother or sister, is currently in your room. You currently don't care that your brother or sister is in your room because your house is burning down. So why would you care about your brother or sister being in your room when literally there's a fire going on? It's exactly the same concept. The Thalmor just need a bunch of noise going off in the background so that they can focus on undoing all of creation, because everything else that's going on doesn't matter as long as the end game is the same. So the Thalmor could be teaming up with the Akiviri. Now the Akiviri before have always wanted to take over Tamriel. They have invaded many times in the past and have been waiting an extremely long amount of time as of the events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim to come back and actually do something about the races of Tamriel and to take over Tamriel for themselves. Now the best case scenario that they could go with is to team up with the Thalmor. If they team up with the Thalmor and form an unlikely alliance, unknown to the rest of Tamriel, the Akiviri can come in and completely be ignored by the Thalmor and start waging a war on the rest of Tamriel, distracting all the other races of man and Myr and beastfolk. This is probably the best thing the Thalmor could actually do, considering the fact that they could be too busy trying to devise a plan or enacting their own plans to undo the towers of the world so that it returns back to the primordial state and they return back to divinity. Now this whole concept would probably be unknown to the Akiviri at the time of them waging war, because I'm pretty sure the Akiviri would not actually want all of creation to be undone. Nobody would want all of creation to be undone, especially if you're trying to take over something in creation. So the best case scenario for the Akiviri, at least when they team up with the Thalmor, is they just don't know about this. So the Thalmor could be deceiving them. And if the Akiviri do play a role within the Elder Scrolls 6 or the Elder Scrolls 7 or any other Elder Scrolls down the road, we can actually see a point within the story where we have to be diplomatic with the Akiviri, or at least find a way to have them see reason that maybe if they are trying to work with the Thalmor, that the Thalmor are even worse threat than they are, and that the enemy of the enemy, or the enemy of my enemy, is my friend. So they would need to team up with whatever faction you are joined with, whatever place you're at, and actually team up against the Thalmor and stop their crazy plan to undo all of creation. This could be a very good, interesting plot line that we could see in a future Elder Scrolls game, if not in the Elder Scrolls 6. It would be interesting to see it in Elder Scrolls 6, as if you've been paying attention to a lot of the theories surrounding the setting of Elder Scrolls 6, you would assume at this point, based off of what everybody else is saying, that it might be set in Hammerfell. Now, if you guys don't know about the history between the Thalmor and the Red Guards, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a history lesson, and that's it. It's like a little tiny tidbit. Stay with me. Okay, so the Thalmor had actually tried to invade Hammerfell in the past. Hammerfell had recently basically decided to split from the Empire once they actually bended their knee to the Thalmor. The Thalmor tried to invade Hammerfell. That did not go well for the Thalmor. The Red Guards had actually put up a pretty good fight against the Thalmor and kicked them back out of Hammerfell entirely. I'm pretty sure that the Thalmor did not take this sitting down very quietly, because I'm pretty sure as of right now, or at least during the events of Elder Scrolls 6, they will still remember the defeat very well, and if you guys know anything about the Altmer, they don't like being proved wrong, and they don't like being defied. So this act of defiance can actually come back around in the Elder Scrolls 6, with the Altmer coming back, especially with a new plan, maybe even teaming up with the Akiviri, starting their invasion on Hammerfell. And, like I said, this would be the perfect distraction for the Thalmor, as they could probably try to undo a tower that maybe we don't know about that's in Hammerfell. Maybe there's an objective. Maybe they actually do want to get to Hammerfell. Maybe there's a Tower of the World. Because as we all know, we only know of the ones that we know. All the towers that we know right now, they have not been confirmed to be the only towers. There could be more. There could very much be another Tower of the World in Tamriel, and there could be one in Hammerfell. We just don't know about it yet. So like I said, the whole plan, the whole storyline of the Elder Scrolls 6 could be centered around the Akiviri invasion of Hammerfell. And if that's the case, the Thalmor could be pulling some strings behind the scene. Imagine that. Imagine while you're trying to fight off the Akiviri that are invading all of Hammerfell, you get word from someone that you're allied with that the Thalmor are suddenly all around this ancient structure. This ancient structure could be anything. They could take any liberty with it. Because remember, in Skyrim, we didn't know about the Throne of the World. We didn't know that that was a tower of the world. We didn't know anything about that. So in the Elder Scrolls 6, we could see something in Hammerfell, and by the time, like I said in the story, we could be fighting the Akiviri, and we could get word that the Thalmor have invaded or have sent some sort of secret spec ops unit, party, soldier battalion, whatever nonsense you want to call it. They sent a group of Thalmor soldiers off to that tower, that structure, and they suddenly destroy it. That could be one of the last quests, and you could find out by the Thalmor that they actually were using the Akiviri as a distraction and trying to destroy one of the towers of the world, making another tower deactivated, meaning there are only 1 or 2, maybe 3 or so left, meaning they're getting closer to their goal of actually undoing all of creation. But yes, that is the theory. I love this concept. I love the idea of what Joseph had sent me. It is a really cool idea. I do like the idea of the Thalmor coming back, and that maybe they're not even the main threat, that they're actually just being used. You'd have to fight a 2-front war, or you'd be fighting a 1 front but not realizing that there's another enemy right behind you that's using the distraction to their advantage. It brings a whole new concept to the Thalmor. It brings a whole new level of threat. It brings the whole conflict of what they want to do to the forefront, because if you didn't know in Skyrim that the elves wanted to become divines again and undo all of creation, now you know. This is in the lore. It's been confirmed. It's just that it's never put out there by the Thalmor. So this could be a good way to kind of jimmy this plot point into the main plot of the Elder Scrolls series, and could bring us a step closer to seeing what the Thalmor could be as a main threat to all of Tamriel in the future. Either way, like I said, the concept of this theory is amazing. Thank you again, Joseph, for actually telling me about this. I loved the fact that I could just go crazy with it because good theory. And I'm pretty sure we all would like to see the Akiviri come back, as they have been mentioned before in the past, in lore and books, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, even an NPC had mentioned them once, though that could be fake if I'm not mistaken. I think it was actually fake. Regardless, thank you so much, Joseph Balga, for bringing this idea back up to the forefront. The Akiviri invasion concept for a future Elder Scrolls game is always an interesting one, as we would like to see the Akiviri invade, and it gives us a new enemy and a new race to actually interact with within the Elder Scrolls world. I am looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6 just as much as everybody else is. I know it's not that far off, we just have to be a little bit more patient, and there are plenty of theories to go through in the meanwhile. So if you have one, and you want to let me know about it, and you want to be given credit like I just gave Joseph Balga, let me know. I'm a platform, so let me know your ideas and I'll make a video on it. Either way, thank you for watching so much if you have up to this point. I appreciate every single one of you that watches this video, and I hope that you all have a nice day, night, evening, wherever and whenever you're at. This has been Infinity Break, reminding you all to say it with me now. Play well, eat well, and of course live well, friends. I hope you guys go out there and strive to break infinity. I hope you guys take it easy.